Welcome to the very first Dinnerview ever on Terry on the Town. I'm Terry Norvell at our Dinnerview location. We're in Atlantic Beach at Josephs Pizza. We'll be here every Monday about 6 o'clock-ish if you want to come down and watch the taping. And we'll have an interesting, exciting story that takes place right here on the First Coast. Well, if you spent any time in Jacksonville, you've seen one of the great brands around town, Bailey's Powerhouse Gym. They've been all over North Florida, South Georgia. They're in their third decade. You've probably said, wait a minute, I've seen that brand, but who are these Bailey boys, these Bailey brothers? Well, the good folks at Joseph's Pizza, with this good pie, attracted all three Bailey brothers. I've got David Bailey, Don Bailey, and Daryl Bailey. Guys, third decade, going strong, Bailey's Powerhouse Gym. Where was it born? How did it come about? Anybody? How did this idea start?
The little gym that I used to work out in closed up, and we just started building some gym equipment in a buddy of mine's body shop, and rented a store and put it in the store and went from there.
81, that's way before the running craze, workout craze. I mean, some people must have looked at you and went, cuckoo.
They were small little key gyms at the time.
Right.
Just free weights, no machines, no cardio, no treadmills. I think, what, about 1,000 square feet was your first?
Yeah, about 1,000 square feet.
And the average Bailey's now, size-wise?
25,000.
25, I think I read somewhere 25, 30,000 square feet.
Person would have fit inside this restaurant easy.
Is that right?
Yeah, without a problem.
Very first one. So 81, Don, you kind of had the idea. Did you strike it on your own? Did the brothers think you were nuts? Or
The brothers weren't involved.
Okay.
Yeah. I was only about 21. Just needed a place to work out, basically, Terry. You know, we used to work out in a police officer's backyard in his garage, and it closed up. And I had worked for the National Health Spas in high school, so I knew a little bit about the fitness business. And I just started building some equipment. You know, I designed it the way I wanted it to be, and we put it in a store, rented a store right down the street from where we built it in the body shop, and started selling some keys, you know.
Well, your story a little bit really kind of reminds me of where we're at, Joseph's Pizza. I mean, they've been doing it, the original Joseph's, 40 some odd years ago on the north side. And again, I mentioned you guys in your third decade. So 81, you get going. I guess at some point, one of you two decided, okay, you're around it for several years. I want to get my own gym. Who was next? How'd that happen?
Don had built enough gym equipment to get a second spot, and came to me, and I was working at a local furniture store, and he asked me, did I have enough money to help him get a little building?
Okay.
And if I did, he'd put some equipment in there, and we'd be partners. And so we found a small place over in Orange Park, about 3,000 square feet.
If it was that big,
yeah. And you know, that's kind of when Dave stepped in too, because Dave would come over, I don't know, after school or whenever you got done surfing, and help paint equipment. And we got the little gym ready, and I ran the little one in Orange Park, and Don ran the one in Arlington and continued to build it. And I don't know how long I was, probably maybe a couple of years, and then I was transferred with the furniture company I was with to South Florida.
Okay.
And at that time, I never always make this joke, I never thought it would amount to anything. So I needed to go stay with my real job.
We both had full-time jobs on the side to pay the bills, because the gyms definitely didn't do it. And they just kept growing and growing. And we ended up with about 4 or 5 small ones. And we're probably in the 4,000 square foot range. And what was it, about 95? You want to go to Powerhouse?
Yeah.
So the 80s, am I correct? The 80s, and I mean, I'm a native here. I kind of remember it as it's been a long time ago. The 80s were kind of the inception, feeling out kind of decade, I guess, a little bit. Some growth there. But Don, you sped up to the 90s. We get to the early 90s and I guess mid 90s. The country was going good. Wages were high. Jobs were plentiful. The 90s, it really seemed like the brand Bailey's Powerhouse Gym just skyrocketed. And then there was a merger, if you will, with you mentioned Powerhouse. How'd that come about and it became Bailey's Powerhouse Gym?
Well, when David and I started getting more into it, we used to go to Orlando and down South Florida and stuff and see the different gyms there and see what they were doing.
Right.
And we just realized that the smaller gyms were disappearing, you know. Everybody was going to Gold's gyms and World's gyms, so we looked into it with the Powerhouse guys. They didn't have anybody in this area, and they had a lot to offer us. So just
Buy-in, power, things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
More name recognition as well. I mean, that's a national brand.
Just
the
brand of that group.
It's going pretty good, mid-90s, right? I mean, mid-90s, again, the country, the wages and jobs and things are going good. Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate it. Did you get back from the furniture business, or how did your... Well, you saw a real good thing going. What did you do? I mean, hey, thanks, brothers, for starting it.
Well, sort of, kind of. I mean, not quite like that. I got transferred around a lot with the furniture company, and I wanted to get back home and obviously be with my brothers and the rest of the family. So I interviewed with what I thought was one of the best things going in town, which was Anheuser-Busch, and ended up going into management with Anheuser-Busch in the early 90s there. And they were still running the gym business, and we saw each other as brothers do and had backyard cookouts and whatnot. And the technical side is what I was doing with Busch, and at the time they were starting to see the need for that. So 1995-ish.
When you come back from a tech side, kind of.
I mean, I'm not living in Jacksonville, but they needed some help in that area, and that's when they asked me to take a look at some things. And I think officially I started in 1996. I think that's the perception, that we went in this to build a business and make money. It really wasn't it. You talked about that in the beginning. I mean, it was something that Don liked to do.
I did not.
Let's tell that story quickly. That you mentioned the reason there are Bailey's key cards goes back to
actually keys.
Yeah, keys goes back to what now? You guys had
jobs. We had jobs, and we used to go in the gyms just at night, and that's when we'd sell a membership, and you'd get a key, and you could use the gym when you wanted to use it. Well, once, the keys did a lot for us, because they gave people a sense of ownership, and we could never take those keys away, even when we went to the computers,
But you told me you were selling memberships while working out in the afternoon, evening, because you were at your regular job. Right. So
I was in there for three hours, maybe a night.
That's a great story.
And I was really in there to work out, but that's when you could join during those 3 hours.
Well, how big now are we now, Bailey's? How many? I know you go into Brunswick and Gainesville. How many we got going now?
We have 12 locations now.
12.
10 in Jacksonville, and like you said, Brunswick and Gainesville.
Bigger, more growth, hard to say, play it by ear. How's that? I mean, is this as much as you can handle on your plate, or?
I think the focus now is going to take some of the older clubs and move them into newer locations and improve what we have. We just did that with our St. John's Bluff location. We moved it to the new location on Monument Road. We recently moved our Orange Park location to a new club, and we're looking at other. The good thing about the downturn in the economy is the real estate has gotten more affordable now. It's getting a little out of hand there.
There you go.
But I think we're going to be able to get some new stores and take some of the existing clubs and make them nicer. We really want to improve what we have and keep growing what we have.
One of the final thoughts, you guys certainly have seen a lot of the fads. I mean, you turn on TV and there's this machine and that machine and this special belt. I mean, you've seen them all come and go. As we wrap things up from Joseph's Pizza here on our Dinnerview with the Bailey boys, doesn't it break down to, you know what, it's the hard work and the sweat, and you can't really cheat it. I mean, Don, you've been in a long time, you've worked out a long time. Address that. Bailey's Powerhouse Gym, you've seen it all come and go, and you know what? Lifting those weights, working out, get on that treadmill, doing those classes, that does it, doesn't it?
Right.
Hey, let me tell you something about that. That's the thing the one thing about the Powerhouse, people think that, Powerhouse, there's going to be a bunch of big guys in there and a bunch of buff girls, and I might be intimidated. And if you go in and actually, if you've never been in, when you walk in the door, you find it's just normal people.
But isn't that the key? You got to go in. It's not a magic belt or a magic sit-up machine. You got to go in. Speaking of going in, you got to go check out one of the Bailey's Powerhouse gyms. 12 in the North Florida, South Georgia area, Brunswick, down into Gainesville, and of course 10 right here in Jacksonville. We've had a great time with the Bailey's brothers. It took the Joseph's Pizza right here in Atlantic Beach to get them all down here at one time. We've had a great time. Don't forget, every Monday, 6 o'clock-ish, we film the Dinnerview right here at Joseph's Pizza in Atlantic Beach. That'll do it. Join us next week, Terry on the Town. We'll sit down with the Jacksonville Sharks, the owner and the head coach, talking sports and stuff right here at Joseph's Pizza. For the entire crew and the Bailey brothers, I'm Terry Norvell. Have a good evening.